Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. My goodness, it's Christmas Eve already. And what a perfect time to be introducing our first guest, Susan Holloway, who's here today to share with us her new album, Joy to the World. So Susan is a passionate artist whose music captures the essence of the holiday season. She grew up in Memphis and has been a prodigy of talent from a very young age. And she toured with a group of young artists who perform classical music in various historical venues around the country. So let's welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you so much.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. My goodness, you know?
I know. I'm so excited. I love talking about my music and what inspired me to get to this point.
Oh, and we would love to hear about that, because every journey has such great inspiration. And most of the people that I talk to, like yourself, who are, just exceedingly talented, they started at a very young age. So at a young age, did you know that this is the type of music you wanted to do?
I fell in love with the violin when I was 5. And I had gone to an Itzhak Perlman concert with my parents. And from that moment on, I was a violinist. I had to beg my mom for several months to let me play the violin. And I started when I was 6, and I was smitten with the violin from that point on.
It just took off from there. Now, I understand during your younger years, you actually played at Carnegie Hall.
Yes, that was such an exciting opportunity. I think I was in 3rd grade, so I was 9 or 10, and it was I grew up in the Suzuki method. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a violin method where you learn by ear. You also learn to read music, but it emphasizes ear training. And Dr. Suzuki, who is from Japan, came over with some of the children from Japan, and nationwide the organization chose people from all around the country to go on tour with them. So that was what I was able to do, and we went to Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center and Disney World, which was a lot of fun. So it was, and I got to meet Dr. Suzuki and play for President Carter. So
wow. Well, and gosh, what an exciting start to your music career, right?
Yes, it was very exciting. Very exciting.
And so, during that time, a lot of times, as we start following the things that we are passionate about, sometimes we have little hiccups on our trail. Did you encounter any of those?
Oh, yes. I did. When I was about 12, I started making mistakes for the first time in public, and it really threw me. I had gotten to a level where it's really hard not to make mistakes, but I was a perfectionist, and so I didn't understand that. And I developed really a debilitating, to me, case of stage fright. And so little by little, I stopped playing in public. And it got to the point where I couldn't play if anybody was in my house. Oh. So this thing that I was so passionate about, that I loved, that I knew I was created to do, I had come to this point where, to me, it seemed like it was clear it wasn't what I was supposed to do, because I didn't feel like I could do it. And I loved practicing. I loved playing in my room. I would play for hours, but I wouldn't let anybody hear me. So ultimately, I went to college, and I didn't major in music because I figured what was the point, really. But at that point, it kind of led me down some unhappy times, because I was made to play the violin, and when I would pray, I would feel that God was telling me that I needed to play my violin, but I would tell him that he clearly didn't understand my issue that was so much bigger than he was that I couldn't play. So it was several years that I didn't play in public at all.
How did you overcome that fear?
Well, it was a long process. I had a daughter who had an anxiety disorder called selective mutism. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the person with selective mutism won't let anybody but those very close to her, to them, him or her, hear their voice. And so in public, she operated as a mute person. So in the process of helping her work through this fear, that I was telling her God was bigger than her fear, I realized that what she was doing with her voice was exactly what I had done with my violin. So I realized that to help her work through hers, I had to work through mine. And I said, God, show me how. So I was presented with an opportunity to play at a huge church. And, well, I went to the church, and I saw the people playing, and I thought I could do that because to me that had meaning. Mm-hmm. And that was how I worked my way into playing, is that if I feel like what I'm playing is meaningful and is helping somebody, or, you know, helping somebody deal with pain or feel joy, I can overcome the stage fright part of it. So it took me just giving it up and realizing that I had to do it and that I could. But the piece about needing it to be meaningful is very important.
Well, and when you made that shift, how did that impact your daughter?
Well, it impacted her a lot because she knew she was, from the time she was 2 until she was 9, she was selectively mute. And so she and I could talk about it, she knew that I had anxiety that was similar. She could see the comparison. So she saw me working through it. And so she worked through it in a similar way, and she knew that that she was making her fear bigger than God's power, and that she could give that up. And ultimately she is 21 years old and is very confident. She talks to everybody. She gets up in public and speaks. So she has done well.
Well, and so what an amazing testament for a lot of people who struggle through something that they think, gosh, I can't get beyond this, or life is too hard, or, you know, what are people going to think of me? I hear a lot of times different people will tell me, well, I don't want anyone to think I'm stupid, or I don't want to embarrass myself. And so it's interesting when you hear these things, and, you know, I think for a lot of people that can relate to what you've been through and what you've overcome, it really gives them like a light at the end of the tunnel going, gosh, you know, she did it, I can do it.
Right. I mean, if you had told me years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing right now, I would have said you were crazy. But
yeah, all in perfect timing, right?
Right, perfect timing.
Yeah. Well, and so as you are going through your journey, and you know, this journey of pretty much it's like a self-discovery or rebirth in some ways, you know, what were some of the surprising things that you discovered?
Well, I think how much more I'm capable of than what I give myself credit for. Mm-hmm. I think living in the moment is a big thing for people who deal with anxiety. I anticipate things so much before and build them up in my head, and I guess in a negative way, that creates anxiety. But if you're just doing things, mm-hmm. the motto, just do it. If you can just live in the moment and do what you need to do at the moment, you can do a lot more than, I have found that I can do a lot more than I ever expected I could.
I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. It's kind of like, gosh, things we make them to be bigger in our heads than what maybe the reality is. And when we have that faith right. and we're able to walk through it going, you know what, and I'm going to come out the other side, it's going to be okay. That when we get to the other side, it's like, wow, that wasn't really that big a deal. And then you have a certain pride about being able to have been able to have done that and done a good job.
Yes. Yes, it's a positive loop cycle.
It's all good juju there, all good stuff. Well, and so it kind of wraps back to like your music now. So then you pick up your violin, and now you're playing in public, mm-hmm. and you're at church playing. When was the first concert that you did outside of church that you were just like, yeah, I've got this,
Well, for several years, really, I only played at church. I was concentrating on being a mother, and I was very satisfied with what I did at church. It was a great musicians, a big church, seats 5,000, I think. And so I played every weekend, and it was very satisfying. And then, but I did always have the sense that I was supposed to take it to a bigger level, the next mm-hmm. level. And I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I did what I needed to do to stay prepared. I practiced, I honed my craft. And when my daughter went off to college, I was in a situation that I was in a relationship that ended, and I was in a situation where, out of necessity, I needed to work a little bit more, and I had the time because my daughter was at college, and I reached out to an old friend of mine in the music business, and I said, I really think that I'm supposed to take this thing I do to the next level. Mm-hmm. I had never played with me as the main instrument, except for special pieces at church. I was part of a band that I played more backup and fills with vocals going on, but I had my art. What I love to do is to play the part, that play the melody. Mm-hmm. And so we spent a few months, this was in 2016, trying to find my lane, what kind of music worked. And so really the first full concert that I did was in June of 2016.
Wow. That's so inspiring.
Yeah. Yes. So, and it was another thing that we just said, this is what we need to do next to take this to the next level. And we did a concert at the church for my first CD release concert. And then we did another concert at a venue in Memphis, where I'm from, that August. And we did a Christmas concert, and we have a Christmas concert coming up. So our intention and our goal is to have more and more concerts. We've spent this year recording a lot, and now we have a lot of content, and we are wanting to do a lot more concerts, take it on the road.
Move it forward. Well, yes. So you just had an album release, Joy to the World. So let's talk about that a little bit. What made you decide to do a holiday album?
Well, I love Christmas. I love Christmas music. It lends itself really well to the violin. I'm a Christian, and it celebrates the birth of my Savior, and it's deeply meaningful and emotional. It's a family time. The music, I think, is very rich. There are so many. A lot of it is kind of dark and moody because it can be kind of a
kind of a solemn time,
dark time of the year, but also it's festive. So we have a little bit of everything on the record, and it just lends itself really well to what I do. I connect with the lyrics of songs when I play. The lyrics are very important to me, even though I'm not singing the lyrics. And I connect with Christmas songs a lot. They're well-known melodies, emotional melodies.
Well, it's kind of like your emotions just pouring out through your violin in these songs.
Yes.
You can feel that connection, so it's just really delightful. Well, and so as you're playing and you're kind of in your groove, do you feel like sometimes you're just divinely inspired when you're playing now? Is it a little bit more free? Do you feel like you're less of a perfectionist now? You're able to have a little bit more of a flow?
Yes, I do. I feel like when I'm playing, and it's not always like this, but there is a connection, a divine connection when I'm playing. I'm worshiping when I'm playing, and it is my prayer time. A lot of people talk about how music makes them cry, or there are a lot of tears that when I practice, I'm worshiping, I'm praying, all that is in my playing. And when I perform, take it on stage or in the studio, that emotion is what I want to have in it. It is a divine experience. I think music is the perfect expression of the divine.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you get in that flow and it's kind of like the world around you just kind of shuts off or drifts away, and you get to be in your passion and just do your art.
Right. It's very present.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a really good word for all of it, because it is being really present to what's going on. And so you've got lots of great songs on this album. Why did you choose Joy to the World as like the theme song for it?
Well, that really sums up what we want to do with this music. I've always thought that it needed to be a global. I wanted to take it global. I just always felt led to take it to a big scale, to worldwide. And I think that it is doing our part to spread joy and peace to the world.
Yeah, and be able to move people through music, especially now at this time in, I think, our history. We can really use more music that brings peace to people.
Yes, and brings people together. I have been overwhelmed by my Facebook followers. Are worldwide, they're global. I'm commenting to people in Portuguese and Arabic and Russian, and their comments are very similar. They talk about it being world music, the universal language, and it touches their hearts. And it's really humbling that what I'm doing, just little old me, playing this music is going out into the world and comforting people or making them feel peaceful, helping them through hard times. And I'm getting those comments from people all over the world.
Yeah, sharing what they're experiencing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and so, gosh, what a great place to be in, where you're seeing that change, of your music, that change, helping people to really get to a place where they're more, caring about their neighbor and in a more heart-centered place.
Yes. Yes. It is. I love my little Facebook community because it's people from Algeria and Egypt and Brazil, and commenting on the same, and they comment on how it's reaching so many different cultures and touching the hearts of people from so many different backgrounds who need, in these times, if there is something that can offer peace, offer comfort, it is, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, you're not only your music, but your life, again, is a testament to all that for people, who are looking to, overcome challenges. And, this is a holiday season for it. When we talk about, Jesus being turned away at the end, his parents being turned away at the end and born in a manger. I mean, you talk about people who have to, deal with their circumstances and look for ways to make things better.
Yes. Yes,
well,
it is.
It's touching, so touching in many ways. And it provides a lot of hope for people where sometimes it doesn't feel like we quite get that.
Yeah, it is hard a lot of times with all that's going on for people to find hope. There's a lot of darkness, and if we can provide a little light through this music, I'm so humbled that I can provide some of that.
Mm-hmm. And add to that hope and peace and love that's being wrapped around the world. Well, and so Susan, where do you see your journey taking you, next? Where are you going with? What do you see on your horizon?
Well, we would like to schedule more concerts. If we'd like to go overseas. So I intend to be rather busy doing live performances and continuing to record. The recording part is the creative part of this is very important, and when my producer and I have an inspiration, I want to be able to act on it. So I would like to provide time in our schedule to record and to take this music out to the world wherever we can. So any venues that we would just like to start playing bigger and bigger venues, if that is what is supposed to happen. I love playing live. I love the energy of the crowd. So I feel like that is our next step.
Yeah, kind of moving that discussion forward. Well, so Susan, where can people follow you and be part of your community?
Well, I am on Facebook as it's Susan Holloway Music, and on Instagram as Susan Holloway Music. I have a YouTube channel that's Susan Holloway, And I have a website that is susanhollowaymusic.com. And I am on iTunes, any streaming service all over the world. You can find Susan Holloway.
Mm-hmm. And people can connect with you. And obviously, you have an international following. So people all over the world, which the show is heard all over the world, people all over the world can connect with you and be part of your community and of course, download your album and listen to your music and just get to follow your journey. Because, I mean, it's such an inspirational journey that you have.
Well, thank you. It's been quite a ride. It's an adventure, and I am really excited to see what's coming up next.
I bet. I will be watching to see all the great things that happen. Well, and Susan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today. It's been such a joy to spend this time with you.
Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed talking to you, Marianne.
Well, thank you, Susan. It's been such a pleasure to spend this time with you and to talk not only about your journey, but your wonderful music as well. If you're looking to download Susan's music, Joy to the World, her new album, you can visit her website, susanhollowaymusic.com. Her music's also available on iTunes and Google Play. So we are going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Do you know that you can become a genius at any age? Do you know that you can change your life and create a brilliant life for yourself? Hi, I am Olympia LaPointe, an award-winning rocket scientist who you more than likely have seen on TED Talks, Impact Theory, and PBS. Check out my latest book, Answers Unleashed, The Science of Unleashing Your Brain's Power. Simply go to AnswersUnleashed.com books and check it out for yourself. You'll find the tools to help you create the life you've always wanted.
The highly acclaimed and newly released book, The Hand Part 2 by Lynn Van Praagh Grattan, describes the journey between a psychic medium and a family who lost a son. Messages from Beyond Eternity's Gate is of love and healing. For more information, visit www.lynnvanpraagh-grattan.com. That's www.lynnvanpraagh-grattan.com.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted to be introducing our next guest, Jim Palmer, and he's here today to talk to us about his book, Just Say Yes. So Jim is a marketing and business building expert and an in-demand coach. He's founder of the Dream Biz Academy and the Dream Business Coaching and Mastermind Program. Jim is also the host of a couple very popular podcasts that talk about business and entrepreneurship. So let's welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, Marianne, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's such a pleasure to have you on. My goodness, you guys are living the dream, both you and your wife, Stephanie.
We are, and sometimes, we've been in a little rough sea and had some inclement weather, and it's like, wait, is this the dream part? or worse than that, when I have to fill up with about 400 gallons of diesel fuel, then that's not living the dream. But that's just part of the deal. We're just having a great time, and we're up in the summer in Rhode Island to be near our daughter Jessica and our grandkids, and now we're moving our way down to warmer temperatures. So, I told Stephanie I've shoveled my last driveway for a long time, I hope.
Hey, I live in Colorado. I totally get it. When the snow comes, shoveling becomes a very real thing.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and so I've got to ask you, what started you on this path of just say yes? How did this all come to being?
So this is my 7th book, Marianne, and my team likes to remind me, especially my editor who's been with me the whole time. She goes, do you know this is like the 4th time you said I'm done writing books? Everybody should write a book as an entrepreneur, and then you write another one. And by the time I had 4 or 5, I thought, okay, that's good. I don't need any more books. The next thing you know, you get inspired, or people ask you to write a book. Well, that didn't happen as far as just say yes. I was really inspired by the similarities that we were noticing from when we were transitioning from selling our house to buying this boat and moving into first a smaller place because it was winter when we sold our house, and all the different things that we were doing, decisions we were making. It's so similar to what I've done and what I continue to do, and actually what I teach my coaching clients as an entrepreneur is you don't often feel ready. There's no perfect time, and sometimes you just have to say yes and figure it out as you go. And I've heard other people say jump and spread your wings on the way down, and that's a little scarier because crashing is going to be painful. But it just struck me, and really, Marianne, we're talking about January of 2017. I was like 3 weeks away from doing one of my live events, and I was just inspired to write this book. And I said, I don't know. Well, here I am. I wrote another book, and I'm probably like you, Mary. I'm just a voracious reader, and I've read so many books, and I try and tie in some of the lessons I've read and learned throughout. And it's just, sometimes I think entrepreneurs, they have a big dream, and they can walk up to the precipice or stand on the edge, and they're just waiting for the right time to go. And sometimes you got to just say yes. And it's anyway, I could go on for hours, especially about the similarities of writing a book, but I'll pause and let you ask them something else.
Well, and for entrepreneurs, sometimes just saying yes is a really difficult thing to do because they're so used to kind of being guarded instead of taking that leap, buying that boat, and sailing for warmer temperatures,
Yeah, and we had a 30-foot boat before this and had great fun, long weekends and stuff. But I've never driven a 50-foot boat with almost 1,000 horsepower, 2 diesel engines, and it's 21 feet tall. So in a wind, it kind of takes on the similarities of a kite, so that makes docking interesting. And Stephanie, whose main task, we share a lot, but her main task is the navigator, and she she took some courses, and there's so much to learn because obviously we want to be safe. And but at what point do you actually feel that you're ready? And that was when, the house is sold. We had purchased the boat, and as spring was coming up and we knew we were going to move on board and take off, we started having a little bit of apprehension. But the truth of the matter is you learn as you go. You figure it out. We watch very little TV. First of all, we have reality TV around us 24/7. Just look out at the boats, and we actually see dolphins now because we're far enough south. But I will sit in the evenings, and right now I'm reading diesel engine maintenance law or books. I'm learning how to repair it because that's what you got to do because it's 125 hours an hour to get a mechanic on the boat. So you got to learn some of that stuff fast. But had I waited until I learned how to service the engines, or had I waited until Stephanie, was much more skilled as a navigator, it's like you'd never go. So you just got to say yes once in a while and really kind of grab the bull by the horns and hang on.
Well, and it's so relatable to, just life in general, especially when we talk to, in regards to people trying to reach other levels of success in their life. I know in your book you talk about the 2 F words. Do you want to share those with us?
Yes. Yeah. And anybody who knows me knows what it's not. But so the 2 F words in business are fear, and I think most people would say, oh, yeah, that's obvious. And the other one is forgiveness, which is, I think, probably less obvious. Now, fear takes on many different forms. I wrote about most of those in my book, Decide. I mean, fear of being found out, the imposter syndrome, fear of what people think, fear of perfection, rejection, all of that. But the fear is something that you have to deal with in order to just say yes. So I'm sure we could do a whole show on fear, but the reason I mentioned forgiveness, Marianne, is so I've been coaching like 7 years, and in the last couple of years, I had 2 clients who had every reason to just keep moving forward and to be optimistic, and for some reason I couldn't get them to do a couple things, and I'm like, and it almost at the starting point, and I said, what is holding you back? And, at this point, 2 or 3 months in, we started to develop a relationship, and, a little bit of trust and sharing with me has taken place. Then this one person goes, I can't forgive myself for the last 5 years. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, this person says, I've spent $30,000 on books and courses and other coaches, and I'm no further along. And while I have good feelings that this is going to work out, Jim, I just can't. I'm stuck because I don't want it to. I said, you have to forgive yourself. And I have no idea what caused me to just blurt that out. She goes, what do you mean? I says, where you are now, you first of all, congratulate yourself. You are an entrepreneur. You have achieved a certain level of success. And for you to move forward, you have to forgive yourself for past mistakes. And sometimes that means lost opportunities where you didn't say yes. Sometimes it means you said yes to something that didn't work out. I said, we all do that. My gosh. I mean, I think of the money I spent when first Google AdWords and then when Facebook marketing came out. I mean, I probably peed away $5,000 because I wanted to do it myself. And then I figured out, well, that $5,000 given to an expert would produce a lot more results, right? And so I'm okay with that. That's a learning curve. And I said, the only way you're going to move forward is to forgive yourself. And in the book, I actually give a pretty, I call it an eloquent way to actually do something physical so you can do it. You can't say, okay, I forgive myself. You actually have to let go, and I'll give you the very abbreviated version if you want. You could write something on a 3x5 card and go out, and if you have a backyard fire, barbecue, or if you don't have that, you could dig a little hole in your yard and bury it, but you actually say, I forgive myself. I'm no longer going to think of this. I'm no longer going to let this burden me, and then you walk away. It's that physical act of actually acknowledging what's been holding you down, and I've had some people make breakthroughs simply because of letting go and forgiving, and not to get all biblical about it, but when you forgive someone, including yourself, when you forgive someone, it's more about yourself than it is them actually. So when you actually forgive yourself and move forward, it lets you. It feels like in nautical terms, it's like trying to get your boat going and still having the anchor tied, and you're dragging an anchor, so you got to cut that line. Yeah,
that's such a great analogy because it really is something that drags people down if they realize it or not. So it's kind of like, okay, you if you want to move forward in life and you want to be successful, you can't do that and not have forgiveness in your heart.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's so interesting how your life as an entrepreneur and also just your life in general. There's so many similarities, and that, again, probably ties back a little bit to why I wrote this book, because saying yes to, Stephanie and I had goals and plans, and, I work with a couple folks myself, just keep my mindset sharp, and one of them pointed out to me a couple of years ago that I was further along than where I said I wanted to be like 5 years ago. I created a plan. I said, so when are you going to start living your dream? I said, I am. I only work 3 days a week, blah, blah. But when are you going to do? I mean, yeah, you're living your dream. You've paid all your debt, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, when are you going to do something? And it's right about that same time when Stephanie said, after, a very long career in early child care, she said, I got to leave my job. It's just killing me. And she ran a very large daycare center. And so not only did she have like over 100 kids, she had teachers. All of the teachers had needs, 100 parents. Every parent thinks their kid is the most perfect kid in the world. And not to mention the government regulations. And she said, I've gone from being a early childhood educator to somebody who's just doing a paper pusher and problem solver, and she kind of lost her zest for it, if that makes sense.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she said, I'm going to leave that job. She never said the word retire. I kind of say that, and she always looks at me. I didn't retire. So she said, once, I can do my job anywhere because I'm proving it now. And she said, what do you want to do? We ought to go on a big adventure. And that's when we finally came up with the idea of, why don't we go live on a boat? I mean, we love boating. Let's see if we could do it 24/7. That's all that whole thing got started. It was, somebody continually pushing me, which proves we all need people pushing us. But then it was, once we weren't kind of landlocked because of her job, now we could go do anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it provides so much freedom when you have the willingness, because it takes a lot of courage to do what you guys did. Because a lot of people get into this place where they're like, gosh, I'm going to fail. I'm not going to make it. A boat's a big deal because, you're constantly fixing that, and they're great. they're great and funny. We were talking a little bit earlier just in regards, to boats themselves, but I mean, they're just kind of like a money pit in some ways, That's
very true. Everything they say about a boat is true. When I told because I'm 59, and when I told we met with our financial planners, and nobody who's wise, and financial planners tend to be a little conservative in their thinking as we approach retirement years. Nobody thought buying a boat this big is a good idea. This does not appreciate; it depreciates, and probably faster than most things. But I think what you're bringing up here is there's a chapter I wrote in Just Say Yes called The What Ifs, and that's something that holds people back, Marianne. It's like, well, what if this doesn't work, and what if this, what if this? And the funny thing is, doing something like this, I said, well, what if we run aground? What if we get lost? What if we, get in too shallow water? What if our electronics go down? All of that has happened since April. In fact, I ran aground the second time I took the boat out, right in front of the home marina. There's people walking, it was low tide, and if you stay in this channel, which might be 20 or 30 feet wide, but if you take your eye off the ball for a minute, you could literally drift 5 feet sideways without knowing it. Next thing you know, you're sitting on the sand. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. First of all, I'm glad I'm in the marina because there's people here, but I'm in the marina now. There's people watching. So we've run aground. When we took off to go to Rhode Island, keep in mind this is going to be probably the third or fourth time I've driven the boat, and here we are going from Maryland to Rhode Island in the open ocean up the Jersey coast. The electronics did fail. I now have redundancy times 3. We have what's built onto the boat. I have an iPad. I have 2 iPads, and I have it on my phone. So, but, all of a sudden we're moving along, and I can't see where we are, and it's kind of scary. Now, we figured it out. Nobody died, thankfully, but it's kind of weird. But the thing about the what ifs, and it started getting to us a little bit as we got closer, is that what if we do figure out every day how to solve a problem? What if I do figure out how to fix a shower pump, which takes the water and puts it somewhere? What if I figure all this stuff out? What if I find out, even though I run aground, I can get the boat off, or we got something called sea tow, and I tow you off the berm or whatever. What if we have the adventure of a lifetime? And we will not have the adventure of a lifetime if we let the what ifs win. So we just need to say yes. And again, it's kind of the theme for the book.
Oh, it's such a great theme, and I just love that because, when I was an entrepreneur many moons ago in insurance and had people that would report to me, like the what ifs were the things that always kept them down. What if they're at lunch? It's a bad time to call. So there's all these things that people will consider that don't really exist. So, and no, you've got such great information in your book. And gosh, there's so much that we can touch on. When you tell somebody just to go for it and just say yes to what their dream is, regardless if your accountants aren't really agreeing with what it should be, and people are kind of going, gosh, that's kind of a risky idea. What advice do you have for those people?
There's an expression, you want it. So I'm going to give you something where a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't afford that," and you want to. As soon as you say, "I can't afford that," your mind, it's just like the supercomputer, shuts down because you've already declared it's not going to happen or it wouldn't be prudent or anything like that. So instead of saying, "I can't afford that," you want to switch it to, what needs to happen for me to be able to make this a reality? Or what needs to happen in my business so I can, maybe work with a coach? Or what needs to happen so I can hire somebody to, start doing some of the things that are bogging me down? What needs to happen? And the very essence of the first part of the question, what needs to happen, that tells your subconscious mind, find the solution. Right? And so when we're looking at the different things about living on the boat and the cost and the fuel it takes to get from Maryland to Florida and all that different things, for what needs to happen? Well, if I take on another client, that'll solve that problem. Or if I do this, that, or the other thing. And, I happen to believe there's always a solution to everything. And sometimes it drives Steph crazy. Like, I'm trying to fix something and it's not working. She says, dinner's almost ready. I said, I'm not stopping. And doggone, if I just do it one more time. And I said, oh, it's the red wire, not the blue wire. But I'm tenacious that way. Yeah. And I think that's the nature of entrepreneurship. Now, they always talk about the top 1% or top 5%, top 10%, whatever. They always talk about the super high achievers. Those people, by and large, are people who do not give up. I think there's in this day and age, it's so easy to become a small business owner, an entrepreneur. Heck, you can order business cards free from Vistaprint. You can use your existing laptop, even if it's 5 years old. You create any kind of a website, boom, you're in business. But it's one thing to be in business. It's another thing to have revenue, and then it's another thing to have revenue that you can live on, and it's a third thing to have revenue that can actually support your lifestyle in which you choose to live your life. And it's for the people each time, like there's massive amounts of people who give it a try, but there's a super small group that actually makes it to where their business is actually supporting them. And then there's an even smaller group of people, would it be the top 5 or 1%, who are just, living life on their terms, both financially free and with time freedom. And so much of that, Marianne, has to do with what you're willing to say yes to and when you're willing to kind of pull the trigger before you feel ready. That's another thing I've learned is that when we talk, we say, I don't feel ready. Well, that doesn't mean you're not ready. I may not feel ready, to be a captain of a 50-foot boat, but guess what? We've driven this boat like almost 1,500 miles in the ocean, and so no matter how many times I get nervous when I start it up, and I've done it. And so sometimes the nerves don't go away, and that's your feelings, but the fact of the matter is I have docked this boat, I don't know how many times, probably 50 or 60 or 100 since last April. And the fear never quite goes away. I think that's actually healthy. but the fact is there's a difference between your feelings and what is actually true, if that makes sense.
Oh, without a doubt. Because the feelings, a lot of times, especially if we have that negative reel that just keeps playing and playing, that's all we're hearing is negativity. When it's a lot of times it's so far from the truth. And you touch on something in your book, actually you have a chapter on it about success leaving tracks. And I know that you talked about how, Dan Kennedy wrote something that had a profound impact on you. Yes.
So Dan Kennedy is by far and away the greatest mentor that I've had, and I've had at least a handful of mentors in my life. But as far as somebody who's helped me change my mindset from one of being either somewhat corporate minded to being a small business owner to finally being an entrepreneur. So Dan has done that for me, and one of the things that I admire about Dan is that he just tells it like it is, and he doesn't care what anybody thinks. This is my opinion, and have at it. And so, I got to know Dan in 2007, and when I joined the program, and then when I created No Hassle newsletters, and both him and Bill Glazer called me out on stage a number of times, and it was good. So I've always sent Dan a copy of my books, but he's on his own schedule, so I've never waited production. launch the book. And one of the things that when I created Decide, the Ultimate Success Trigger, I did talk about the difference between a small business owner and an entrepreneur, and I talk about that difference. And so at that point, I had already branded myself. I used to be the newsletter guru back when I was doing newsletters 100%, and then I created the whole Dream Business Coach, Dream Business Academy, Dream Business Mastermind. I mean, just all this different dream business stuff. And Dan, who certainly understands marketing and things like that, he said, Jim is not just an ordinary entrepreneur who tells you how to start a business, he helps you create a dream business. He kind of but he recited some of my own language. And he doesn't heap praise very often to many people. And I just thought that was an unbelievable day for me.
That really has to be, to have that kind of insight and input from somebody that really is making such a profound impact in your life, and getting that kind of feedback.
Yeah, it was a big day.
Mm-hmm. So, gosh, I mean, there's so many other questions I have here. I think I have time for probably one or two more. So you talk about the power of zero. How does that have any power? What is that all about?
Zero. It's a big goose egg. Well, so a lot of people, entrepreneurs, they try and play the safe game. So if I was to say, I think everybody ought to come up with a big goal about how many clients you want to add to your business next month. So, and some people may say 5, 10. It depends on your business, right? But what I'm saying to do, it's a little bit like when I talked about the power of the mind, what has to happen. So instead of saying I want 5 new clients, you say I want 50. Or instead of saying I want to add 10,000 in revenue, I want to add 100,000 in revenue. Because one of the things that happens when we set our goals to be while we know they're attainable is that your brain kicks in, and I learned this way back when I started my newsletter business, and an early mentor of mine, he said, what do you want to do, Jim? If I can add 5 new clients this week or a month, or he said 5, and he goes, you know how to do that. You go to chamber meetings, you shake hands, you do a couple mailings, you do this, that, and the other thing, and he's right. It shouldn't be that hard to add 5 new clients. He said, what if you were at 50? And I said, wow. He goes, yeah, but here's the thing. What do I need to do? So again, you're asking yourself, what do I need to do to add 50 new clients to my business? And that gets you thinking. Now, if people are thinking that's a lot of woo-woo or pie-in-the-sky thinking, that question and that mindset is what led me to start No Hassle Newsletters, because my first newsletter business, I was writing and designing newsletters. I was meeting with clients. I mean, I was the small business owner. And when I started going through that process and really discovering leverage and things like that, that's what led me to start No Hassle Newsletters, where I eventually grew that. We had thousands of customers in 9 different countries using that program, that was so foreign to me, Marianne. And that was me, discovering the power of the internet and leverage and that person said, well, Jim, do you think you could find even two small business owners in every state, just 2 in every state? And that was a way for me to think, well, yeah, how hard would that be? And he says, well, there's 100, so go out and get them. So the power of zero is you want to take whatever goal you have and add a 0 to it. Now, the thing is, if you fall woefully short of that goal, and you miss it by a long shot, you're probably going to be much farther ahead than if you just had a reasonable goal anyway. So if instead of 5 clients, you add a 0 and you go for 50, and you miss it by like 50%, and you get 25, well, you're 20 more than you were. Or what if you only hit 15? You're 3 times your original goal. The whole idea is you have to challenge your mind to think bigger, and you ask the question, what has to happen for this to become reality?
Well, and the thing is, too, it's what I think is so great in that suggestion and how you're doing it, is that you're showing people that you can grow your business in such a way that, maybe 5 is a great number, but 50, gosh, a lot of people might get a little fearful thinking that's unmanageable. How am I going to do that? But you're showing them that it's possible.
Exactly. And again, there's one person I'm not going to name because your audience probably wouldn't recognize the name, but one person challenged me to death. And it was actually on an interview, but it's okay. I can take tough questions. But he's like, well, yeah, but aren't you setting people up for failure? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, if somebody does, say, 5 and they make it 50 and they hit 10 or they hit 12 or they hit 8 or they hit 16, aren't they constantly falling short of their goal? Isn't it going to impact their mindset? Well, to me, I'd rather be, I marry myself to the desired outcome. So if I wanted to create, let's just say I wanted to create a $10 million business and I fall short and create $1 million business, am I going to be like crying myself because I have $1 million business? No. I'm recognizing that sometimes be willing to maybe trick your mind, or it's not even tricking. This is a technique to get your mind, your subconscious mind, which stores everything you've heard, read, seen, watched, absorbed, and felt, and it takes all of that and puts it to good use for you. And so to me, I said, you know what that sounds a little bit like, and I know you don't mean it this way, but it sounds like a little bit more ego-driven, like is my ego going to be bruised? And I tell you what, I let go of my ego a long time ago. That's another thing entrepreneurs have to do. My ego is nowhere near as important as my desired outcome. So if I do 10 things and only 2 of them work, but it helps me to keep this lifestyle that I have, then I'm okay with that. My whole goal is to keep providing this lifestyle that we have now, and it is not to hold myself out as the be-all, end-all. And so I think what I tell people, to entrepreneurs, to do is I said, when you start working with me, I want you to put your ego in the drawer, check it at the door, whatever your expression is, because if you being seen as the creator of all good things in your business is more important than you having that kind of business, then we're going to struggle for a while.
Yeah, because it can get a little difficult when you have ego involved, and ego is going to win and get nothing.
Because ego, that's right, Marianne. Ego is tied to feelings, right? So if your ego is telling you, "Oh my gosh, you fell short, what a loser," there's a bruising ego, right? But what if your ego says, for the last 5 or 10 years you've done this, and now because you're working with Jim or anybody else, you've now done a lot more success. Boy, I guess you weren't as smart as you thought. Well, I would tell my ego, I don't know if I can say this, but shut the hell up, because here we are on a phone, but I got my hand up saying I will guarantee you that many of the bright ideas that have helped me grow my business were ideas from other people. People that I've watched, other masterminds that I've been in, coaches that I've worked with have helped me, and I thank them profusely. Many of them I just thank publicly when I do interviews like this, but it is not about me being the smartest person in the room. It's about me getting a chance to live out my dream lifestyle, and if I borrow somebody's idea or if I implement an idea that somebody else has, I love that.
Well, hey, and you're obviously doing it. I mean, you guys are living on a fabulous boat. You're, being able to travel and do the things that you want to do. And, I would consider that living the dream.
It is living the dream. We pinch ourselves still. And so April through December, I don't know what that is. That's like 8 months. We pinch ourselves like, who do we think we are? It's almost like we are not worthy. And so, but I mean, we have done it. We continue to do a lot of good in life too. But I'm not going to go there. But my point is, you get to a point that you dream about, and then it becomes reality, and you're like, wow, oh my gosh. And then you got to just keep doing what you need to do to keep it going.
Yeah.
But getting there is the first part, Marianne. Identifying what it is that you want to do, and this is something I do with my clients. I say, well, what does your dream lifestyle look like? Because you may be afraid of the water, but maybe you want to have a house on the beach, or you want to vacation once a quarter, or you want to stay exactly where you are but have your house paid for and work a lot less. I don't know. What you have to identify what it is that dream lifestyle looks like, and then we reverse engineer and figure out what do we have to do to make that a reality. And I'll tell you, it's such a fun exercise because it's seldom a bigger problem than people think it is, and it's usually a little bit easier than people think it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and once you have the courage to move forward and say, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to make this happen, things start to kind of fall in place.
They do.
It's very,
taking that first step.
Stuff.
Yeah, well, the first step is the big one.
Mm-hmm. And so what last thoughts do you want to leave our listeners with?
One of my go-to lessons for helping people achieve more, especially entrepreneurs, is this, Marianne. You will earn significantly more income for who you are than what you do. See, a lot of people are tied on the what you do, which is the deliverable. So whether you are an accountant or a lawyer or a seamstress or you cut lawns, it doesn't matter what it is, but you're going to earn a lot more money for who you are. And what I mean is who you are perceived to be in the public domain, in the marketplace. I guarantee there's a lot of coaches that can do what I do, and some better, some not as good. But I've created a very good marketing for myself as a dream business coach. And with the newsletters, I often tell people, hell, I didn't graduate college. I barely got out of high school, but I built a newsletter business, and I was self-taught desktop publisher. So I used to use Quark Express and Photoshop, and I probably knew about 10% of what they can do. But doggone it, I created the newsletter guru and built one heck of a successful business. It's not about the deliverable. It's about the marketing, and it's about the brand and the positioning that you hold.
Yeah. And gosh, you've blazed the trail for people so they can pick up your book, Just Say Yes, among your many other books that you have that teach people how to move themselves ahead. Where can people connect with you and learn more and be part of your community?
Oh, that's a great question. So I have a number of websites, but I have created a new group. It's on Facebook. It's called Build Your Dream Business Now. And because I want it easy for people to remember, it's dreambizgroup.com, dreambizgroup.com. It's free. One of the things I'm doing, and I just started about 30 days ago, not even 30 days ago, Marianne, but I've been doing for the last almost 3 years, I've been doing about 150 interviews a year, and I'm scaling that back to about half, and I'm going to take all that time, and I'm putting it into this group. So in about 10 days, we're over 100 members, but people are sharing and ideas, questions, things like that, but I'm also guaranteeing that I'm in there, I'm answering questions, I'm coaching for free, which is interesting, but, I'm giving some guidance, and but dreambizgroup.com, and we'd love to, if you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, just go there and join the community.
Oh, well, that sounds like a great thing to do, and also they can pick up their copy of Just Say Yes, create a dream business, and live your dream lifestyle.
Well, that's the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.